I came back from a recent trip to Washington, D.C., and I wrote a few stories there. So let me share the first one with you. Story time. It was a hot, sticky morning when I stepped off the metro and found myself in the heart of Washington, D.C. The city had a certain weight to it, not just from the monuments and memorials, but from the history they carried. The Capitol dome was shining in the distance, and the Washington Monument stretched up into the sky like it was trying to touch something just out of reach. I'd come here for a little break, a pause from the day to day. But truthfully, I think I came here looking for something else. Maybe understanding, maybe peace, maybe just a moment to breathe. In the last few years, I've developed a lot of interest in history and politics. As I wandered past the familiar landmarks, the Lincoln Memorial, the reflecting pool, the endless names etched into the Vietnam Wall, one word kept following me: bravery. I stood in front of Lincoln, reading the Gettysburg Address engraved into stone, that these dead shall not have died in vain. The words hit differently in person. Lincoln was brave, sure, but not because he was famous, because he made impossible decisions, stood firm through a storm, and carried the weight of a divided country. Then I walked past the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. I watched a man reach out and gently touch a name. No words, just silence, just memory, the kind of quiet courage that moves. It moved me. You don't have to speak loudly to be brave. Sometimes just showing up, carrying your grief, living on, that's enough. Later at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, I read the words engraved into stone: out of the mountain of despair, a stone of hope. I felt that in my bones because my own mountain hasn't been small either. I grew up in India in a life that was full of color, noise, and community. But I left it all behind when I moved to the United States, then later to Canada. Each time I moved, it was like tearing out a piece of myself and hoping it would grow back in new soil. It wasn't easy. I struggled to find my place, to belong. I chased my dreams for a while. I thought if I worked hard enough, life would go the way I had planned. Then my children were born, and in time we learned Shauna had special needs. Life shifted, not gently, suddenly, all at once. I made choices, hard ones. I gave up the path I thought I was meant to follow so I could give my children the life they deserved. I paused my dreams, sometimes I buried them, and poured everything I had into my family. At that time, I didn't think of it as bravery. I thought of it as survival, as love, as what any mother would do. But sitting there watching the sunset behind the monuments of DC, I started to see it differently. Bravery isn't always dramatic. It's not always about war and speeches and sacrifice. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it looks like packing your life into suitcases again and again. Sometimes it looks like sitting in therapy waiting rooms forever and ever. Sometimes it's holding your child while they cry and pretending you're not just as scared. And sometimes it's just waking up and doing it all over again. Love to you all.